Joe Biden came in, and on day one, he stripped back a border policy that was the most effective border policy I've ever seen in my 27 plus years of Arizona. I covered Arizona for 27 years. I covered the border for all of those years. And we never saw it better than when President Trump was in charge. He had secured our border, the best I'd ever seen it. And on day one, Joe Biden came and tore that back, completely exposed us to a criminal element, handed over control of our border to narco-terrorists, and they immediately started to bring in people from all over the world, not just Mexico and Central America. People from 160 countries are pouring in, coming up through our southern border, and Joe Biden's pretty much giving them citizenship by what he's done.
Jump back to the border stuff in just a sec, but can you talk a little bit about what generally is going on in Arizona? I think most people think of Arizona and they're like, no, it should be a red state. It seems like it's a red state, but it doesn't fully seem to be a red state. It really, as you're saying, could go either way. It's a little hard to understand what the electorate is really made up of there or where they're really going.
Well, let me tell you, Arizona is as red as my shirt, okay? It's a red state. But when we have corrupt elections that are stolen, where we have mail-in ballots being sent out to people who don't even live here and filled out and sent in, and we have ballot trafficking, and we have more voters than even registered voters voting, then we're going to have a corrupt election that makes it look like we aren't a red state. And that's why it is imperative that we get to the bottom of this election and we do not allow another election to be stolen. It's not about Republican, Democrat, Independent. It's about having honest elections and saving our country. So we're a red state, absolutely. We have a lot of people coming over from California. Believe it or not, a lot of them are conservatives who are fleeing. Mm-hmm. They're political refugees coming in from Oregon and Washington, California, and other blue states. And of course, we do have some coming in who are bringing their liberal ideology with them, and we're really not interested in becoming California. So we are a very conservative state, a Wild West state. We've got an issue with our border that does not remain here in Arizona. When we have people flowing across, people being trafficked, drugs being trafficked, they move to other states beyond Arizona. I was just in North Carolina for the Trump rally, and the good people of North Carolina, I think their number one issue is the border. They were chanting, build the wall, finish the wall in North Carolina. Think how far they are from the border. Mm-hmm. This is an issue that is an American issue, not just an Arizona issue. And we've got to get a strong governor in who is going to finish the wall, send troops to the border, and secure our border for the rest of the country as well.
How did this happen with the border, do you think? I mean, we've been covering this a lot and reading off the numbers, and it's gotten significantly worse under Biden, obviously. But what happened in Arizona and Texas that allowed so much of this, that allowed so many people to come in, and not just come in, but they come in illegally, and then they're shipped to other states? I don't know if you've seen, but my governor here in Florida, DeSantis, any illegals that they ship here, he's shipping them to Delaware. I highly recommend you institute a policy like that once you're governor. But what do you think happened in Arizona that led to this?
Well, I have a better idea. We're not letting them in the first place. We're going to keep them from coming in, and we're going to find them when they're here. We're going to send them back across the border. That way our tax money is not going to pay for them. What happened was Joe Biden. And what happened before that was a corrupt election that got Joe Biden into office. And Joe Biden came in, and on day one, he stripped back a border policy that was the most effective border policy I've ever seen in my 27 plus years of Arizona. I covered Arizona for 27 years. I covered the border for all of those years. And we never saw it better than when President Trump was in charge. He had secured our border, the best I'd ever seen it. And on day one, Joe Biden came and tore that back, completely exposed us to a criminal element, handed over control of our border to narco-terrorists, and they immediately started to bring in people from all over the world, not just Mexico and Central America. People from 160 countries are pouring in, coming up through our southern border, and Joe Biden's pretty much giving them citizenship by what he's done. And it's going to stop when I'm governor. We are going to shut it down. We're going to finish the wall. And have you seen the video of of all of that material that we've already paid for. I was just
yeah.
down there, and it's outrageous. I was down there in southern Arizona walking next to it. It goes on for a mile. It's stacked up probably 20 feet high, and it's just materials for building the wall sitting there in the desert. We're going to take that back under my border plan. We're going to redefine what it means to have abandoned federal property, and we're going to use that to finish the wall. We paid for it. We paid for that material. And we're also going to send our Arizona National Guard down to the border. We're going to arm them because we're not going to put them up against these cartel members without arming them. And we're going to have them push people back and not allow people to come across our border. If we catch them, we arrest them for trespassing, detain them, process them, and send them back across the border. And we do have the right to do that. We're going to ask other states who are interested, like-minded states, to chip in and help. Maybe they send their state guard down, and we will use them and utilize them at the border to make sure we have enough manpower on the border. Our Constitution allows for this, Dave. The Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, the Guarantee Clause, it requires the federal government protect us from invasion. And when they fail to do that, in Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, the states have the power to take control. It's almost state war power to take control of their troops and stop the invasion, which we intend to do beginning on day one of my administration.
Do you sense that that's kind of the future of America, not just talking about borders, but in general, that we'll return to some level of federalism that we were intended to, where the state that you live in some ways will be more important than the federal government? I mean, that's really the way the whole thing was set up. It doesn't seem to be the way we think we're supposed to be governed, but I sense that coming back. I can tell you from living in California for the last 8 years to where I live in Florida right now, it is like living in a completely different country, and I'm actually okay with that.
We're going to learn the weak states versus the strong states. You could call it the blue states versus the red states, and I agree with you. I mean, we realized during COVID just how strong the states were. We've handed over way too much power, by the way, to the federal government. So it's about time we bring that power back to the states. But we learned when our governors exerted their power against the people during COVID how much power they had. Unfortunately, they used that power to torture us, to shut our businesses down, to shut our churches down, to send our schools closing and sending our kids home. They forced our kids to mask up. They forced people to get shots against their will. So they used that power in the most devious way, in my opinion. I plan to use that power to strengthen Arizona, protect Arizona, and give the power back to the people. And you can see it as broad as daylight when you go to a Florida, when you go to a red state, when you go to a state like California, where these terrible radical leftist policies have been in play for 40 plus years in California. They've completely destroyed what used to be a once great state. And so I believe going back to state power is the way to go back to our sovereignty. We created the federal government. They didn't create us, and we are sovereign, not serfs of the federal government.
What do your opponents say? When you're talking to the Democrats, or if they're just talking about you, maybe they're not talking to you. I mean, what are they saying on the border are they saying anything that resonates with people or that makes sense? Like, what is the policy of a border state Democrat at this point?
Well, I'm actually impressed with that we're leading the charge. My campaign is, I've been on day one talking about the border, calling it an invasion, calling it what it is. And now my Republican opponents are now jumping and even stealing parts of my plan, which is fine because my plan is the best plan out there for securing the border. So I'm actually pushing just the entire discussion on what we need to do across the country even. I've had other people reach out to me and say, can I take a look at your plan? We might want to implement it here. I have sent it over to our current governor, Doug Ducey, and said, please implement this immediately. We can't wait until I'm voted into office. We can't wait until January of 23. We need to start this right away. He never responded to that. I hope if he's listening that he will take a look at it and implement it immediately. It's the only way we can protect the good people of Arizona and of America.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.